Hello everyone, welcome back to another Esports Race in Canada lap guide video. This time it is for round 2 of the ERC Community League. We are heading to Lime Rock with the Grand Prix layout. That is the one with the chicanes, the very annoying chicanes, but it's a good opportunity to overtake down into that corner. So yeah, let's jump right into the hot lap and then into the lap guide. Alright, so now onto the lap guide. If you guys can tell, I am a little sick, but wanted to get this lap guide out for you guys so you could be set up as best as possible for the race on Wednesday. So yeah, let's jump right into the lap guide. So heading into turn 1 here, this is, I'd say, the trickiest corner on the track. It is a long right-hander, so you have to be very patient. But you're also coming from the front stretch, which you get up to around 204, 205 kilometers an hour. So you're going from that speed directly into a right-hand corner. So you got to be careful of the balance of the car and how you manage that and all the weight transfer, especially in this car, which is very sensitive to any input you have, including downshifts, braking, steering, and even the throttle. It's you get a lot of understeer if you put too much throttle, so you'll see my throttle inputs are fairly slow sometimes, just to slowly load or unload the front tires rather. So as we come into turn 1, braking at the 2 board, getting up to around 80% on the brakes, just holding it for as long as we can before we start turning in to maximize the straight line braking. Only one downshift for now, and you can see my steering wheel in the bottom left there just counter steering and having neutral steer throughout the entire way, as you get a lot of oversteer if you downshift twice. So that's why I was only doing it once. I found it was better to do it only once, but not carrying the brakes for too long throughout the corner, just up until we get past the curb, and then back on throttle to kind of regain some balance, holding around 30-35% throttle, and then slowly ramping throttle up throughout the rest of the corner onto this curb. I found if I get onto this curb, it kind of sucks me into the inside a bit, so I can get to full throttle a bit earlier and not have to worry about going wide on exit. Running out to the curbing over on the left side here. Onto the next corner. This one is also pretty tricky because there's not much space in between the exit of turn 1 and the entry of this one. So you want to open it up as much as possible, but you don't need to go to the white line. So you can see I was about half a car's width to the left of the white line, and just super light on the brakes just to get the car slowed down, and then just holding that like 5-10% brakes to help the car rotate. And you'll see in all of the corners I take, my steering input is like fairly slow, and then as I go through the corner, I start turning it more and a bit faster to help counter the oversteer, because when you turn the wheel slower, you'll have some oversteer, but then if you all of a sudden just turn it fast to the left, the tires and physics, it's going to be too fast for the rear end of the car to kind of react, so that causes understeer. So if you ever feel the car start to slide and you can't really use the pedals to help with that. You can just steer the car to the way that you're going, and that should help. So if you watch my steering inputs, you'll see that I start to turn it a little faster in the direction of the corner to help with that. But this one, just coasting for a little bit as well, just to help with the balance, and just trying to carry as much speed as possible without scrubbing it off or carrying the brakes for too long. Getting up to around 50% throttle. Don't want to get too much understeer because the next one is relatively flat out, but you want to open it up as much as possible so it can be flat out, or as much as possible. So you'll see I slowly ramp the throttle up all the way onto this curb. It's basically hugging the white line here on the left side. And as soon as mouse is glitching out here, as soon as you kind of exit and are straight again, you want to start turning to the right, and just a slight lift, just a little one, just to get the front end pointed down a bit, and gripping to the track and getting as close as possible to this curb on the right. If you touch it, you'll bounce and get sent off into the grass, so you want to get as close as possible to it and running out as wide as possible on exit. This next corner, biggest braking zone on the track. There are some massive sausage curbs, not even curbs, they're rocks. So you want to avoid those at all costs, especially in a car like this that has basically like 0 springs and suspension. So if you hit it, you're kind of going to get sent off. But a braking point here, you can see when I go into cockpit view, was as this tree on the left here passes the left bezel of my monitor, and getting to around like 80-90% brakes, braking as hard as possible in a straight line without locking the tires, all the way to the left hand side of the track, making sure to open it up as much as possible. You can go on the curb, but it will just mean you'll have to come at the curb on an angle because there's grass and then the curb starts. So as long as you get as far to the left as possible, you'll be good. And then, yeah, just holding the brakes at maximum pressure for as long as possible. And then as soon as you start turning in, start releasing them. Otherwise, with this car, you'll just lose the back end. So you really have to practice the string theory method, if you've heard of that. Imagining there's like a string attached to the brake pedal and the steering wheel, and for every percent you steer, you release a percent of brakes. Something like that. So it's basically just being smooth with your inputs and steering, and allowing the car to have just a stable base. So turning in, getting as close as possible to this rock here, and you'll see I was getting back on power before the apex, really, and that would just set me up for a better exit, and I didn't need to wait until the apex to get back on power. So I found you could get back on power a lot earlier than you may think, and carry that extra speed all the way up the rest of the hill, getting as close to all of these rocks as possible, flat out all the way up here, and then coming into the 2 double right-handers. These can be a bit tricky because, well, especially this one, because the apex curbing is raised, so hit that and you're just going to bounce off. So you want to avoid that, but you don't really need to brake for this corner. You want to be as far to the left as possible, and as you start turning in, you start turning before you lift, and then lift off, and just trying to keep that speed up and manage the balance of the car, getting back to full throttle as soon as possible, running all the way wide as possible. Coming down to this next corner, you see it's downhill, so that means as the downhill meets the flat, there is going to be a compression, so you want to maximize that. And the way I did that was lifting off and steering as the compression hits and getting back to full throttle. So that way there's more force on the front tires to the track, and you can maximize that compression by having that extra grip available, just to allow you to then get back on throttle as soon as possible. Again, avoiding that apex curbing there, so you don't bounce off and go into the oblivion over here. And yeah, just running all the way wide on exits and all the way to the line. So yeah, that is lap guide around Lime Rock in the Formula Ford. Hope you can improve from it, and hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you on the track.